Hi, everyone. Before we get started, I'd like to thank the St. John's International Women's Film Festival for this welcoming space to have this wonderful conversation with Gloria Ui Young Kim, a filmmaker and an award-winning filmmaker, and writer, director, producer. I also want to acknowledge that I'm coming to this conversation here in Vancouver. I am based in Vancouver. And that is the traditional and unceded territories of the Coast Salish people, the Squamish, the Tsleil-Waututh, and the Musqueam. And I'm very grateful to be a settler here in this space, and that I personally originated in Ontario in the space of the traditional lands of the Mohawk of the Bay of Quinte. So I'm really grateful to be here today to have this conversation. And my name is Carol Whiteman. I guess I should introduce myself. I am the producer and co-creator of Women in the Director's Chair, a national professional development offering that has been working to create space for women and gender minority filmmakers since 1997. And Gloria, welcome to the space. And I'm wondering if you could locate yourself in this conversation as well.
Yes, thank you, Carol. So I am right now in Toronto, Ontario, and I'd like to acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. And I would also like to acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. And I come to this land as an immigrant, and my lineage is from the north and south of Korea. So I'm super grateful to be here as well on this land and having this conversation with you with this wonderful festival.
Yeah, I am too. Just a shout out to the festival because it's celebrating its 31st edition. And we've been collaborating with the festival for 10 years with the Women in the Director's Chair program. And it's been a delight. It's such a welcoming space, as I said. And I'm just sad that we're not there in person to celebrate.
Me too.
And celebrate that your film, your debut feature film, Queen of the Morning Calm, is going to be closing the festival. And so this is a pre-recorded conversation for those of you who are tuning in. And I'm just really thrilled that we're here to have a conversation about your journey as a filmmaker, Gloria, and what it took to get you to this place of celebration. So
Thanks,
shall we
Carol.
just dive in?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. All righty. Well, I'd like to talk with you about, and I ask this question of all filmmakers that I get a chance to have a conversation with, what do you love about filmmaking and storytelling? What is it that drew you to be a storyteller?
I just, I think the thing about storytelling that I love so much and that I remember from being a kid is that you're part of this magical world, this like totally different realm of the imagination. And, when you read, you dive in, but when you write and create, it's even more, I don't know, immense than that, more magical, I think. Like the first story I ever wrote, I was 8 years old. I was in grade 2, and I remember writing it and feeling like, and I didn't have a language for it, but it felt like I was channeling. That was the best way that I can describe it, is that I was writing, but something was writing through me, and that these characters were coming to life, and they had their own lives and their own voices and their own feelings. And I just felt so at peace and so connected. So that's why I love storytelling, just that connection.
Yeah, connection. A connection with yourself and with others. And
Yeah.
it's a really powerful experience, isn't it? That
Yeah.
connection.
Yeah. I think it's one of the things that really just motivated me to continue on this path. As sometimes arduous and difficult as it can be, it's this hope for connection, and it's this feeling of wanting to reach out and reach into people's hearts and touch their hearts and get them to feel these really, you know, wonderful feelings, or feel compassion, or feel empathy, or feel joy, feel sorrow, feel, you know, anger, all of these things. And it to me, it's just, I think it's one of the ways that we can really affect the world and change the world. So that's like a huge part of why I do this.
Now, can you tell us a little bit? I know that our viewers are going to be really curious where you started. What was your entree into this world of media and storytelling? What was the first step you took when you started out, Gloria?
Oh my gosh. Well, my first step was, I mean, if you're going to go way, way back, but my like first step, I think it was when I remember, so I did my degree in English literature. I was always a writer. And then I had this terrible writer's block. And I thought, oh my God, I think I'm going to die if I don't break this writer's block. It was just so intense. And I had graduated from U of T, and I thought, I need to do something about this. And I also need to find myself a job. So I started taking classes at their continuing education program. I guess it's the Raymond Chang School now. And it was, I took a class in magazine, because I thought, oh, I can, but back in the day, you could work in magazine, and it was like an easy fit. And then filmmaking, I thought, maybe I'll just try this, because so in my background, my all my uncles and my grandfather were all filmmakers, and one of my uncles had his own TV show, and the other one was like a renowned screenwriter and producer. And I thought, and I had always had, you know, my cousins on my mom's side say, you know, you have to love films. It's in your blood. And so I thought, oh, I'll just take this. Maybe it'll be a good way to like break the writer's block and just get me back into writing. And I swear, I picked up that camera the first time, looked through the viewfinder. It was an old, it was like a really old Bell and Howell, like from World War One, like a World War One crank camera. And it was like something happened, like something downloaded in me, like this innate knowledge or something. And I just knew that this was what I was supposed to do, that this was why I was put here. And yeah, that was like the beginning of it. And I started taking classes and got into Ryerson in the regular program, and then started applying for grants, and started getting grants kind of right away, like Canada, Ontario, Toronto. And then I remember through WIFT, Women in Film and Television, I got the CBC Canadian Reflections Award for my first short outside of school. And that was kind of what got me going, my first steps. So
That is really inspiring, Gloria. I mean, you
thank
have
you.
a family background in storytelling, obviously, and media making, but finding your own pathway,
Mm-hmm.
you know, in this landscape. And you know, you're based in Toronto, so so you know, there was the CFC, the Canadian Film Center, the National
Mm-hmm.
Film Institute, Women in the Directorship. So
Mm-hmm.
tell us a little bit about that pathway and the
Mm-hmm.
themes of the stories that were propelling you through those programs. Can we talk a little bit about theme and the kinds
Mm-hmm.
of stories that that call to you?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so I did do CFC first and then NSI, but for me, it was always about, in terms of themes, thematically, like I was always really driven to tell stories of people who have been marginalized and on the fringes, and give voice to them, because I've always found that interesting. I've always wanted to shine a light. I've always wanted to enlighten. And um it just, I don't know what that is. Maybe it's because I, as a Korean woman in this culture, um you know, my voice isn't really out there in the same way in mainstream culture. And I just was always so compelled that, you know, my voice and voices of other people of color, of women, of, you know, non-gendered, these people would have a space to share their stories. And I think just going back to my theme around connection and my like raison d'etre, that was really what it was for me, was that I'm so compelled to share this notion that we are all connected. We're all the same. We all come from the same place. You know, our hearts beat, you know, we're all on this land, on this planet together. And so that was kind of the thing that's always driven me in terms of my storytelling and wanting to share those kinds of stories.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I'm just gathering my thoughts here because it's a powerful theme, that theme of connection and sharing the stories of underrepresented folks, people that we don't see in on television or weren't seeing 10 years ago in quote unquote mainstream media, and to be a force for making that media and telling those stories, Gloria. That's something that I see as a theme in the shorts that you've created, and the lovely twists of storytelling and relationship and gender and experience of that marginalization. I'm thinking a little bit about your short film, The Auction, and going back, and you made that in 2010, did you? Or around that time? And you now it makes more sense when I read an article that said that you had found footage, or on the link that you'd found some footage of your family, and it sort of factored into that. Can you talk a little bit about memory and that magical space that memory creates sometimes? Because that sort of leads us into Queen of the Morning Calm and the opening line. Did I ever tell you?
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm a little bit obsessed with memory and that magical space of memory. Like, I think that we, you know, like, I mean, there's this interesting notion that we live in past, present, and future all at once, you know, and we bring this memory with us, and it's still so alive and it's so real, and it's the emotion of that moment and that time that we carry with us that kind of affects how we are in the world and how we encounter things. And so there's something really tender and special to me about memory. And I think, you know, in the auction and in Queen of the Morning Calm, I was really obsessed with this notion around childhood memory, because I think children are so smart. I think that they're just little mini humans, and the culture treats them as if they are less than us. And I really don't see them that way. I think that they're just these incredibly perceptive and smart, and on top of it, human beings who are kind of watching everything go by, everything happening to them and to their parents, and have their own opinions about it. And so I guess with the auction and finding that found footage of my parents and their wedding anniversary, or not anniversary, their engagement party and their wedding, it just remembering the stories and the storytelling, like, it just would always transport me. And I had come here when I was 3, and I still had some very distant memory of Korea, like the salt of the ocean, and like the beach, and like, you know, just the neighborhood and the kids. But it was it's like kind of dreamy feeling that you have, right? And then seeing the footage was almost like, oh yes, it was like I've seen this somehow because of the storytelling, you know. And then creating that magic in a film, right? Because you're recreating, you know, those magical moments. And I think definitely thematically, that's woven into Queen of the Morning Calm, the way that I see just the little girl, Mona, and how she regards her parents and their love story, and how it's become part of her memory, even though she's never experienced it, but she, because of the storytelling, is ingesting that. And creating this little fantasy around herself that feels safe.
Yes. She's created a bubble, a beautiful bubble without those soft edges,
Mm-hmm.
which is, you know, aesthetically, not to create any spoilers, but aesthetically, you know, what you've created in
Mm-hmm.
telling this story. Can we talk a little bit about how do you describe this story? It's a very unique mother-daughter story. And I know that through the development process, and it's gone
Mm-hmm.
through a very long development process. How long would you say you
Mm-hmm.
carried this story, Gloria?
Oh my gosh. Before going to camera, it was 11 years.
Exactly. So with the
Yeah.
emotion it created in 2010, it was kind of germinating then.
Mm-hmm. Oh
And then
yeah. I had little drafts. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And through that process, and we'll talk about the support behind the project in a moment. But can you give us a what it is at the core of it? How do you describe Queen of the Morning Calm at the core of it?
Well, I definitely see this at the core as a love story between mother and daughter. And I see it as their uh, like co-journey towards self-empowerment and love. So that for me at the core is it's very beautiful beating heart. And that did take a while for me to figure out. I knew, but I didn't know. You know, it was like hard to explain. I think because when you're writing a story and you have all these characters and they're pretty complex, and in earlier drafts of the story, some of the like other characters had full story arcs that I had written because they were totally alive to me. Like they were real humans to me. And yeah, so it took a while to kind of pare some of that back to find kind of the core of the story, which was that mother-daughter journey.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And this is a very particular mother and daughter. Can you talk a little bit about Deborah and Mona and who they are in
Mm-hmm.
the that core relationship? Because it's
Yeah.
very unique and specific.
Yeah, so Deborah is a 29-year-old sex worker, and so and Mona, her daughter, has just turned 10. So she was a young mother, and who basically, I don't know if I want to tell too much of her backstory, but
You know, just at the core of it, who they are.
yeah,
She's Korean,
yeah, she's Korean. Yeah,
and so
yeah,
and Mona is a mixed race.
yeah, mixed race child. Yeah, yeah, and her father is a guy named the Sarge who is present in their life.
Mhm.
Yeah, and yeah, and Mona's super feisty, and like I like to think of Mona, you know, because where I had kind of germinated the idea for this story was just in my own personal story with my own mother, and having had a difficult relationship with her and wanting to explore that story. And Mona was like the character that was the loudest to me, like in terms of her insistence on being seen and how clear she was. But she was definitely the little girl that I wished that I was.
Very feisty. Well, I think some of that feistiness is still there, Gloria.
Thank you.
It's very clear to me. And I just want to give us a moment to reflect in terms of your journey, because you became a mom in the
Mm-hmm.
process of writing this story, and how
Mm-hmm.
that informed the Deborah character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting because I think that when I first started writing Deborah, um, she was kind of more the age that my mother would have been if I was 10. And um, it was a lot harder to find her as a character. I found her a lot more difficult to have empathy for. I think because of that difficult relationship with my mother, there was always this barrier. And I think as an Asian woman, as an Asian person, and all my other Asian peeps, I think will attest to this. Asian mothers are really tough, right? Like this whole tiger mom thing is it's a real thing. It's a real, there's like truth behind the stereotype, right? And so she was a real tough, hard but also like in her own way, very, very, very loving, right? But showed it by being tough, right? And so it was hard to like figure her out because I just, you know, I was so into that Mona character, and I had never wanted to be a mother, and I you know, got pregnant and had my child. And that was when I was able to step into my own mother's shoes and see who she was, and holding my own baby for the first time and looking down and feeling this incredible love and realizing, oh my goodness, my mother felt the same way. And it was almost like I was in my body and her body at the same time. It was like a weird feeling of like, holy cow, right? Because it wasn't intellectual. It was physical. It was just, I just knew that this was the love that she had for me. And that transformed our entire relationship. It truly did. And it allowed me to reach out to her and ask her about her life and what had happened to her, and why she was the way she was, and hearing her story about how she never felt loved by her own mother because she was the only girl in a family of 4 boys who were all brilliant and adored, and she was incredibly beautiful, and she was adored by her brothers and her father, but her own mother couldn't, you know, give her that kind of nurturing that she needed, and it just kind of all fell into place and allowed me to open my heart to Deborah, and really give her her own dignity and her own feelings and her own vulnerability, because suddenly I could see that my own mother had all of those things, and she wasn't that scary disciplinarian that I had always known her as.
Yes.
You know, she suddenly became human to me through the writing of Deborah, and through the exploration, and through my exploration of my own mother, through my questions, and through my own ability to kind of soften up because of becoming a mother myself.
It's
So
incredible that that lived experience
mhm.
gives you a voice of authority around the drawing of those characters. I think this might be
Yeah,
a perfect time, Gloria, to ask if we could have show a clip, like the trailer. Let's show the trailer,
that'd be amazing.
and then carry on the conversation. Shall we do that?
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
Okay.
Did I ever tell you the story of when Daddy and I first met?
Tell me.
You got Glamour.
Really?
Glamour's worth more than pretty. Makes more money at the club. Just one more glass and I'm done. Babe, I need to talk to you.
It'll wait.
Babe.
It'll wait.
Deborah! The bench! Deborah! Deborah!
Stop it! Nothing has turned out the way I wanted it to. Mona? Mona!
I need to find my dad.
Mona! No! Are you happy, baby? That's all that matters.
Oh, thank you. That's a great trailer, Gloria. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
I want to change gears and talk a little bit about the pathway to actually making this film, to making it happen, because a lot of resources go into making a feature film, and it wasn't a straight line. So
No.
could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So I when I first started sending this story out, I did I had just done the CFC, so I had sent it out to the CFC Features Project because I knew they liked me, and I was hoping that we could do something, and it got turned down. And then I also sent it to the NSI, and it got turned down there. And you know, at the time, I mean, I think the script definitely wasn't ready, but it was definitely at a time when, because this was about 9 years ago, when people were not as interested in diverse stories. They were not as interested in stories about Korean women, you know. And I even heard one comment, which was, "We've already made an Asian film," and that was Double Happiness, which was Mina Shum's film from the 90s, which to me is a seminal film for Asian Canadians and Asian Americans, just across the board. So, you know, like I just kept going. I just kept going back to the drawing board and rewriting. And I was really lucky. I got the Telefilm New Voices Award. And there wasn't any money attached, but it was recognition, and it was also encouragement. And I thought that was important, right? Because as a writer, you write so much in a little silo alone, and you're just like, you know, these characters are talking to you and they're insisting on their story to be told, but you just don't know. And so that encouraged me to continue to apply for the script to different script competitions, and it got into the second round of competition at the Sundance Screenwriting Lab, which was really encouraging. And then I did a script read at the Female Eye Film Festival, and at the Female Eye, there was this screenwriter, Monica Lee Belay from the States, who was kind of a guest of Female Eye. She was giving feedback to all of the different scripts, and she loved the script. Like, I remember when she told me, like, she was all like shaky and trembling, and she started to like get weepy as she was talking about the script. And so she had an initiative called Spotlight on Screenwriters through Women in Film and Video in Washington, D.C., and she invited the script to be part of that. And it just gave me the courage to apply to the Women in the Director's Chair Career Advancement Program, the module, because I had always wanted to join the Women in the Director's Chair family, so to speak. And I finally felt like I had kind of enough behind me to do that. And it was really wonderful because I was able to, through CAM, I was able to pitch the story and really refine it much further than I had up until that point. And it was that year I felt confident enough in the draft, even though it wasn't the draft we went to camera with, I still felt confident enough in the draft to apply to the Feature Film Award, the Women in the Director's Chair Feature Film Award. And that, when I got that was when everything changed, because that was like huge. It had sponsorships, it had the Harold Greenberg attached, and that was really my first indication that I could make this film actually happen. So that was pretty amazing.
It is a particularly important award in our media landscape, isn't it, Gloria?
Yeah, it really is.
10 years, and I have to do a little shout out to the sponsors, the ongoing sponsors, William F. White, Panavision, who helped you, Sim, who helped you at Post.
Yeah.
And I know other projects have worked with Keslow, and you know, you worked with the Front Row Insurance,
yeah. Front Row Research House, yeah.
In Vancouver, when the award is in Vancouver, we have studios attached, North Shore Studios, The Bridge, Vancouver Film Studio. I just want to acknowledge those ongoing believers who lend external confidence to the women filmmakers, or to the filmmakers that are selected by peer jury to win this award.
Yeah.
And yours is particularly a point of pride for us.
Thank you.
Given how rare your story is,
and
how tenacious you've been to make that
Thank you.
Feature film.
Yeah, it was wonderful. And there really is no other award like it in Canada, so it's really special. Thank you, Carol.
Yeah. And then, you know, the arts councils, you have a bit of a track record with the arts councils.
Yeah.
The cash of putting it together.
Yeah, that was wonderful. So I got the Ontario Arts Council and Toronto Arts Council grants, and that was amazing because, you know, that was money, that was actual cash, and you need cash in order to make a film. Like it's the sponsorship you are absolutely vital, but without cash, it's really hard to go to camera because of your hard costs. And so that was kind of incredible that they came through.
And then you applied to telefilm.
Yeah, I applied to telefilm twice and I got turned down twice.
The second time, though, the script was in pretty good place, and we had Sonia Di Rienzo on board.
Yeah, she was wonderful. Yeah. Well, the second time I got turned, well, the first time I got turned down, I was crushed, and the second time I got turned down, I just thought, I'm just going to make it. And I remember like calling you and just saying, like, I feel like they really want to support my film, Carol, even though I got turned down. And you, because you had, as an executive producer, you had that relationship with telefilm that you could just pick up the phone and ask about my project. And you know, you found out basically that it was right on the cusp of being supported. It had just kind of been, it was so close. And so I just kept being persistent. I just kept, you know, sending them notices about what was going on with the film. And I was like, you know, this is when we're going to shoot, and oh, look who we've cast now. And I would send them audition tapes, and like when we had gotten this one key location, Fillmore's, which is was a very notorious, one of the last remaining strip clubs in Toronto, and which still has the old marquee lights and everything, and is super vintage. And the owner there took a liking to me from a couple of years past when I had done a photo shoot there, asking a favor. And when I secured that location for pretty much a song, I told them about it as well, and so that was kind of really helpful. They were really excited about the project. And then because they knew that I had you as my executive producer and Sonia Di Rienzo as my executive producer, and Josh Barsky as my co-producer, they knew that I was being supported with a really great producer team, and that was going to back me up. And so it was pretty wonderful when funds became available. I was kind of next in line, and I was able to secure that financing, which was
exactly
amazing.
It was a very unusual and fortuitous circumstance where that unfolded.
Yeah.
And I think that that external confidence in you really is the linchpin. You know, when you know that there's the resources behind you, it gives you the confidence and the strength to carry on, because it's not an easy thing to do the marathon of making a feature film, is it, Gloria?
No, it's definitely, and that's a good way of putting it. It definitely is a marathon. Like, it's not a sprint. You have to pace yourself, and you just have to every day just keep working away at it, and just be in it for the long haul.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. And I'm you know, I'd like to change gears and talk about that aesthetic, those collaborations that you brought together for making the film a reality in production, and also about that, you know, that memory piece and the magic realism. And I'm wondering if it's possible to do another clip, just that moment in Fillmore's, because you've told us about this wonderful location. So maybe we can do that and run that and come back and talk about collaboration and the aesthetics.
that sounds wonderful.
left me.
I left you?
Hey! What the fuck? You trying to get my license revoked?
It's not mine, she's Deborah's.
Okay. Well, thank you. That is an amazing little piece of revelation of Mona and Mona's entree into a different world.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Yeah, that was really fun to shoot. That was really amazing to shoot.
And shall we talk about the aesthetics that you and Josh, or sorry, you and Dimitri?
Yeah, so my cinematographer Dimitri Lopatin was my key collaborator in creating the look and feel of this film. He just did such an incredible job. We talked at length about the look that we wanted, the look that I wanted, and I remember us, sending him visuals. I had told him from the start that this, for me, visually was a conversation between cool tones and warm tones, and sort of the blues and pinks, and then kind of the warm golds. And when we were working with Panavision, we had the privilege of working with Panavision lenses, and they so we had a couple of choices, and one of the choices, or in terms of sets of lenses, was the Panavision Super Speeds, and they're these vintage lenses from the 70s that I just think are so special. And I had told Dimitri that I wanted it to feel and look like film, and so he was testing all of the lenses, and he had come upon this one lens, the 40 millimeter lens in this set, and he called me and he said, there's this one lens, I don't know if I should bring it or not, but I wanted to talk to you because it does something kind of special. It's got a slightly warm cast to it, and it flares every once in a while unexpectedly. And I was like, oh my gosh, yes, bring that lens. That's going to be the lens. And we ended up shooting most of the film with that lens. Like in almost every scene, you see the 40 millimeter lens. And it really, I think, created something special in terms of the look of the film, and did things that were unexpected and magical in some key moments of the film that I just feel like, the film gods have blessed me with those moments.
Absolutely. I mean, the beautiful soft edges and those flares really lend themselves to those memories, those dreams, those daydreams that Mona had. And it's just really complementary to the aesthetic. And also, if we could talk a little bit about the production design and how that supports the aesthetic as well.
Yeah. Like my production design team, Carly McGrath and Josh Turpin, I think did a really great job, and just taking all of the kind of the visual references and the feel of things that I wanted, and putting it on the screen, and just creating, like Josh Turpin essentially created the pawn shop, because that was an art gallery space, and he just brought in all of that stuff, and made that whole space come alive. So it was really special. It was really, 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 really special. And just
so much of your resources went on the screen, Gloria. It's just, for a ultra low budget project, I mean, it was supported by all these resources, but ultimately it's a low budget project, and it's all on screen. You could never tell. It's just
thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can we talk a little bit about your cast and working in those beautiful spaces and that environment that you've created aesthetically, and talk a little bit about Eponine and Tina and Jesse and
Sean and Zara. They were incredible. I mean, like Tina Jung, who plays Deborah, was so spectacular. She just worked so hard at the role, and like put her heart and soul into it and just really went to so many hard places. And it was such a demanding role for her. And sometimes we would do multiple take after take after take, and I'd always check in and just say, do you have another one in you? And she'd be like, yeah. And she'd just find the resources in herself to like go to like these incredibly just tender places emotionally. And then Eponine was spectacular. I mean, she played Mona, and what a special actor she is. Just an innate ability to really just understand where a character needs to be emotionally and just be there. Gosh, it was such a dream working with them. It was such a dream. Like, it really was.
Well,
Yeah.
you've created this beautiful tapestry of characters, and you purposefully cast them somewhat non-traditionally and somewhat and I say that with respect, because Hollywood traditions very different from the aesthetic that you're creating, Gloria, and I'm honored for that. So
thank you.
how important was that for you?
Oh my gosh, it was so incredibly important. Like, I worked with an incredible casting director, Marissa Richmond, who I had met through the CFC, and who had always been such a huge supporter of me and my work. And I had said to her, for all of the parts that I wanted filled, I would say to her, I want this to be a Black actor or a South Asian actor, or like I specified. I just thought it was so important to bring diversity to screen, because that's what we have in Canada, and particularly Toronto, is there's so much diversity here, and that's my lived experience. And it's rare that you see that on TV and in films. Like, it's becoming more of a thing now because people are waking up to it, which is really wonderful. But it's still kind of a rarity, and so that's why I was able to cast wonderful actors like Zara Bentham, who plays Tammy, and Soma Chaya, who plays Cece, and even like the smaller roles, the woman who's at the employment center, Samora Smallwood, who's biracial, African and Newfoundlander, and even the two guys at the in the strip club, Robert Fetty,
Yes.
who's Black, and his friend who's South Asian. I just thought it was important, to just really represent.
Yeah, you did that, and kudos to you in terms of your vision.
Thank you.
And part of that is about creating that space. And can you talk a little bit about your preparatory process, how you prepare? What is one thing that you do in prep that's so important to you, that you do every time?
Yeah, I mean, I think with because there's so much that you have to do in order to get any kind of film up, or to direct anything. But I think one of the key things that I do for myself and for the actors and for the story is I always try to track the arc of each character. I always try to track where they are in every scene, where they start, where they end, and then where that in the larger story plays. Because I think that's so important in terms of finding the truth of a scene, finding the truth of a character, but it's also just really more satisfying when you're watching something. And it gives the audience a sense that you're on this journey together. So that's like one of the things that I make sure to do. And then I always look for the motivation. Like, what is the motivation? What does this character want? And how are they trying to get it? I always write in every single scene for every character what that is, so that when I'm on set, I have that well of information to go to be able to communicate to the actors, because that really is being there as a director on set with the actors. It's really about communicating and about helping your actors find that place and just be comfortable
Mm-hmm.
with that journey.
Yeah, allowing them to fill the space and then being that guide or that third eye, if you will.
Yeah, because as a director, you're protecting them by making sure that you know what the story is and that you know where they're going, and you're not going to let them fall. You know, like you really are creating a space for them so that they are safe to explore and to do these really wonderful magical things that you're asking them to do, because they're the ones that are vulnerable. They're the ones that are putting themselves out there. So you want to respect that, and you want to help them and you know, connect with them and get to know them and figure out what works best for them so that they have that space to do their work.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's so important.
yeah.
So, what is something that you would suggest to other filmmakers from your journey to getting to make this film and what you've experienced? I'm talking about big takeaways again, and what piece of advice would you offer up to filmmakers who are heading into a similar journey?
I would say, you know, I would say breathe, you know, take a breath. And then I would say also just really enjoy it. Like enjoy every moment of it, because it's such a privilege and such a pleasure to be able to make films and to make art. And enjoy the people around you, enjoy your crew, enjoy your actors, because you're doing something together and it's this really huge, beautiful thing. And it's so magical and it's so wonderful. And
yeah, it's such a roller coaster in terms of all the work that goes into it. It's sometimes very stressful. There's lots of things that, you know, as many plans you have to be nimble to be solution minded. But I think that's such great advice, Gloria, to be in the moment and to be able to savor that. You're making a feature film. It's a rare thing. Not everyone gets to make it and be able to share their voices.
Yeah, it's a rare and wonderful privilege to be able to do that.
And so speaking of your voice and what is next for Queen of the Morning Calm? Where we're going to see it next?
Well, we're going to open actually in commercial theaters. So Friday we're opening at Yonge and Dundas in Toronto, and then there's a couple of other cities that we're going to open at, I believe Edmonton and Calgary are on the list. I can't remember. There's another couple of cities. Sonia Duranzo, my EP, is taking care of that. And then with Real Asian, we're having a nice special screening, which I'm excited about. I love Real Asian. And then we're going to do a charity screening for Red Door and Maggie's that I'm excited to raise money for them. So
in November.
Yeah.
And just for those who are tuning in, you know, this is pre-recorded, so Friday means Friday the
25th of September. Yeah.
And we're closing the St. John's International Women's Film Festival. Such an honor.
Yeah, it's such a huge honor. I'm thrilled to be doing this. It just means so much to me to have this audience and to be at the St. John International Women's Film Festival. It's such a wonderful festival. It's such a warm festival, and just to have that kind of support and that kind of love is everything to me. So I'm so grateful.
Well, it is one of the most special film festivals in the world. One of the oldest women's film festivals in the world. And we've been collaborating, as I say, for about 10 years. And it is really a privilege, an honor, and I'm humbled to be able to moderate this conversation with you, Gloria. Thank you so much. And thank you to the festival for creating this space for Gloria, for her film, and for women's voices. And it's been such a pleasure. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Carol. It's been such a pleasure for me as well. Thank you.
And for those of you who are tuning in, stay safe and enjoy the movies.